Hey everybody, it's the Mad Master, and I know, excuse the background, I am in the process of moving in the next 2 months, so it's going to be look pretty lame in the background of these videos, for at least the next 20 videos until I move and get everything sorted out. So anyways, what is the subject of this video? Well, it's a video that I've been planning on for a long time, and that is the very important subject of Metallica versus Megadeth. So I've thought about this long and through, and I'm going to just give my perception on what band wins in a battle between the two, starting from the beginning. So, Kill 'Em All was the second or third tape I bought ever in my life, by the way, I should say. Uh, and I remember the tape that I bought had this, it had a sleeve that smelled like some type of cologne the person had. I just remember like the smell of the tape and stuff. It's so weird, but so I was really into Metallica really early as far as my metal uh, fandom, and probably the fourth or fifth tape was Peace Sells by Megadeth. So that was early on that I got into both bands. Uh, I proceeded to get into Metallica and Megadeth simultaneously. I didn't have So Far So Good So What until actually about 10 years ago, or 13 years ago, 14 years ago. I had never really heard that album. For some reason, it kind of, wasn't on my radar as much. Or not So Far So Good So What, I'm sorry. Killing Is My Business. So Far So Good So What was actually one of my favorites growing up. So I got into Metallica and Megadeth. And back then, I would have to say that I liked Metallica a hair more than Megadeth. Now, Rust in Peace came out, and I thought it was brilliant. I thought it was a little bit long-winded in the second half, but then the Black Album came out, and at first I was like, "Oh, this is pretty cool," and then it just kind of got commercial. It just got a little too commercial for me. Now, who wins so far in the battle? That's the question. So going back, well, Kill 'Em All versus Killing Is My Business. I would say Kill 'Em All wins. But strangely enough, I like Killing Is My Business, the reissues, not the latest reissue, but like the 2004 reissue. I actually like that the best out of all the Megadeth reissues and some re-recordings that he did. I thought that album deserved the remix, because he definitely re-recorded some stuff too, that he did. Now, Peace Sells not as much as far as the remixes and stuff, but I like the original mix better, as well as So Far So Good So What I'm sort of in the middle about, and then Rust in Peace, there's no topping the original. So I'd say Kill 'Em All wins against those two albums. Now, come to like Killing Is My Business a lot in the last few years. I didn't really know what to think of it back in the day. Like I didn't even own it to be honest. So until last 13, 14 years. So I don't like it as much as Kill 'Em All. And when we're talking about Four Horsemen versus the Mechanics or whatever, Four Horsemen just has a finesse and a sophistication that I think the Mechanics never had. Because Four Horsemen has that little Leonard Skinner part in the middle that probably Cliff Burton might have written, but James Hetfield might have written too. And I like how the solos are done. I like the speed, and I like the epicness and the lyrics way better than the Megadeth subsequent version, because we know Dave Mustaine wrote a lot of those riffs and used it on that song. And so we talk about Metallica versus Megadeth. Metallica wins on that point. Now, as far as soloing on the first two albums, I would say Metallica wins, because as much as I love Chris Poland, he really didn't have as much, too many solos on Killing Is My Business, and he should have. He should have. He's a great guitarist. And Dave Mustaine does not just play pentatonics mainly like Kirk Hammett does. He plays a lot of different kinds of stuff. But I'd say tone and feel, the first two albums, I'd say Metallica wins. But it's a close call because Killing Is My Business is a classic record. It has a lot of cool stuff on it and cool solos and stuff. So I'm not dissing that by saying it's a close call. I just say Metallica wins by a hair in that situation. So let's talk about the second album. It's kind of hard to talk about the second album of Megadeth versus Metallica because Ride the Lightning is not really comparable to Peace Sells. Peace Sells and Master of Puppets are more of a fair comparison. But we'll just do this. So Ride the Lightning had a lot of Merciful Fate and Euro metal influences that they acknowledged at the time. Has a lot of cool stuff. It's probably my favorite as far as guitar tone Metallica. I love the Mesa stuff because I own fucking a fuck ton of Mesa. Probably haven't even seen all the Mesa stuff I own. Fucking dual rectifier, Mesa Studio, and then power amp and stuff, and some Marshall stuff. I never showed anybody this shit, so I have a bunch of. I'm a hoarder. that's a lot of my stuff. So I love Mesa stuff, and I love Metallica's use of them. But I would have to say on Ride the Lightning, they have a certain feel to the production that just right now I like it better than some later stuff. But we'll get to that. Some of the later stuff, because there's some stuff I really like a lot. So when it regards to Red Lightning versus Peace Sells, that's a tough one. That's a toss-up, because Peace Sells is an absolute masterpiece, and that's really where Megadeth started to stand out from the bands that were coming out. Because you had Chris Poland do these kind of fusion-esque solos, and Dave got better too. I mean, he did plainly just shreds, and there's a little bit more neoclassical to his shredding than Kirk Hammett. A lot more chromatics too, but so that's kind of a toss-up between those two albums. I would say I like Ride the Lightning more because I grew up with Metallica, but I also grew up with Megadeth, so it's hard to say. But that's even, as it has to be even, those two albums. Now we're talking about So Far So Good So What versus Master of Puppets, and this is where we're gonna get some interesting territory from yours truly with this. I grew up with Master of Puppets. I didn't listen to it as much as the first and the fourth album by Metallica. And I would have to say it's less of a toss-up as far as listening tastes. I think Master of Puppets is a better written album overall. I think it's slightly, the O word, overrated. I do think it's a little overrated. I think it's great. Don't get me wrong. It's a masterpiece. It's classical music of metal, with Orion and fucking all this stuff. But that one, I think I just listen to So Far So Good So What more nowadays because it just has this immediate impact to it. And a lot of people say it's the shitty of the first 4 or 5 Megadeth. It's the shittiest one, first 4 or 5 Megadeth albums. And even Dave Mustaine himself has come out and said, "Oh well, I was just doing that for drug money." I mean, I remember that was an interview in like 1990. It's like Metal Hammer where he said that. He says a lot of different stuff, so who knows? And the production leaves a lot to be desired too. But I always liked the feel of that album and the catchiness of a lot of it. So I would have to say, So Far So Good So What, controversially wins a little bit over Master of Puppets for me. Now that doesn't mean that Master of Puppets is objectively a worse album. Of course, if we want to go into like musical snob, musical critic territory, obviously Master of Puppets is a better album. It's kind of like liking a shitty science fiction B movie more than like the latest like foreign film that gets a fucking Oscar or something. It's like, well, you just like the movie more. You like the B movie more. Who cares? It's fine. So yeah, So Far So Good So What wins a little bit over Master of Puppets. So now we get to the fourth albums. And there's 2-year periods, of course, between, or yeah, 1 or 2 year periods between Megadeth and Metallica. So Megadeth got started a little later because of him being kicked out of Metallica. So, Rust in Peace versus Justice. Now this one's going to be a little controversial as well. And I will tell you why, because Justice was like the second or third tape that I had growing up when I got into metal. And Rust in Peace came out, I was already well established in metal and stuff. When I bought Justice, actually I had a dub. from my brother, my older brother, and I hated it at first. Honestly, I hated Metallica at first. The first time I listened to it, Justice for All, I had a headache. I had this family friend that said Metallica was headache music and all this stuff. So that wasn't really the influence why I had a headache, but I was just like, oh, wait, I don't know, man. But I liked the song One. So the reason why I listened to it again, the second and third time, Justice, is because like, oh, I'm going to listen to it again. I don't know. I don't know what it was, but like something happened to me like by the third time listening to it. Not everybody needs to listen to albums more than once. Not everybody should, but I was just like, I'll try, I'll listen to it again because I have nothing else to do. Blah blah blah, whatever. So the third time I listened to Metallica's Justice for All album, I was like, this is fucking great. This is the best, other than Iron Maiden, this is the best band around. That's what I thought. So I think Justice is criminally underrated in some ways, and then it's rightfully maligned in other ways because of the lack of bass and all that. But I actually like the production. If that was the only album with that production, that would be fine. But of course, I want the bass. I listen to some of the bass added bass versions now too, and I think the whole thing was kind of a disaster. It was because of Lars Ulrich, probably because he was the one who likes, hey man, I want to do this like edgy production and fuck shit up, man. Oh, you read these interviews with Lars over the years about Saint Anger's production or Death Magnetic. You're like, okay, he's the culprit in these situations. So overall, though, Justice, the video won, the song won, and just everything to do with that album and that touring cycle, and just the attitude and James's like, even the look, like just. It's stuck in my consciousness, my unconscious mind, because like that was the peak to me of Metallica in many ways, and just the musicianship and just the great everything about that album. So we're comparing that to Rust in Peace. Now, Rust in Peace, I saw the world premiere of Holy Wars on Headbangers Ball when it came out. I'm that old. It was like only whatever age. I was not a teenager, so I'll just say I'm not that old. Whatever, who gives a fuck? So yeah, I saw the world premiere video of Rust or of Holy Wars, and I was blown away, rightfully so. I thought it was great. Now the difference between Metallica's Justice for All and Megadeth's Rust in Peace is like when you get to songs like Lucretia or even the much worshipped Tornado of Souls. I'm like, yeah, this is okay. But the first half of the album just has more of that oomph to it. And I thought Metallica's whole Justice for All just sucked me in. So I'd have to say Metallica wins versus Rust in Peace, Justice for All. And that's controversial. People, and I love Marty Friedman and I love everything in bass. Production is great. I'm going to use some impulse responses for my next song from Rust in Peace for some of the, if you don't know what that means, it's like a guitar thing. So I love Rust in Peace, but I like Justice for All more. I just do. It just had more of an impact on me growing up, and now it just sounds it's just this aggression and this feel to it that I just can't get enough of. I love it. I bought it on vinyl recently. So, and I love, I like Lucretia and Tornado of Souls and some of those other songs on the second half of Rust in Peace, but they just, to me, they're a little more pedestrian, more stock power metal kind of stuff. And Five Magics is good too. That's underrated. That's an underrated song, but it's like, yeah, I like those songs. They're not bad songs, but they're just not on the same level of like, even To Live Is to Die or Harvester of Sorrow, which I went to take a piss, and there used to have these places called, or I think they still have. This like kind of 7-Eleven kind of place called Stop and Go in the town I'm in. They used to have these big sodas that were like this big called Big Jacks. When I was a kid, I drank them. And I drank them before I saw Metallica live on the Black Album tour. And what song did I choose to go take a piss? Harvester of Sorrow. And it lasted most of the song. I like the song a lot more now, but that's like the one filler back then to me on Justice. The rest of the songs I love. Dyer's Eve, To Live Is to Die. All the songs, Shortest Straw. The second half kicks so much ass on Justice that it kind of obliterates Rust in Peace's second half, which sounds a little bit like we're getting into like the next album's territory a little bit. Some great riffs, some great solos, obviously, and songs are great too, you know. So that's what I thought about those two versus the other, you know, the one versus the other. So now we get to the most controversial aspects of their careers, where they sold out, you know, for cash, some say, or got more commercial or more groovy or whatever, slower, whatever. So we have Black Album versus Countdown. Now this is truly a agonizing choice in a certain way, because, but it's not at the same time, but it is, and I'll explain. So like 20 plus years ago, I actually did a VHS camcorder video review of Megadeth's career, and I said Metallica? Was it Megadeth or Metallica? I can't remember. So that's how funny it is. That's how funny this is. So I bought the Black Album, and my brother-in-law was like, "Something's missing from this. I don't know what's going on here." You know, so I actually bought Enter Sandman, the tape, which I still have somewhere. I recorded a song in high school over the tape. So but I still have the tape, the Enter Sandman tape with Stone Cold Crazy as the B-side. So when I bought that tape, my brother-in-law immediately said, "I don't know. It sounds more clean, but there's something missing." And so I don't know if that just subconsciously influenced me, but I bought the album and I listened to it a lot at first, and I was like, it just didn't have like the same replay value as the previous four albums, or even the Garage Days. I didn't even throw in Garage Days, but it's kind of an extraneous thing anyways with these comparisons. So a little bit later, obviously, I bought Countdown to Extinction, and I never really got into it that much. I like Sweating Bullets and a couple other songs, and it was kind of the same thing. Now, nearly 30 years later, what do I have to say about the two albums? Well, the Black Album has, if you hear it on the radio, this is the thing, if you hear it on classic rock radio now, or if you hear it on, especially if you hear it on solid rock, hard rock, whatever you want to fucking call it, radio, more, you know, more metal, mainstream metal radio. And I mean mainstream, like Hailstorm or new metal, hard rock, post grunge, whatever. These radio stations that play Hailstorm and fucking Five Finger Donkey Punch or whatever, which actually, you know, Five Finger Death Punch actually has some great guitar licks. It's the rest of the song that's not great, and that's a phenomenon that we have a lot nowadays, where we have these shredders that play some good stuff, but the songs, you know, are too commercial for me and too quantized, other than the guitar solos. But that's an old other subject. So you hear Black Album songs now on the radio, and you're like, wow, that sounds so deep and good, like heavy. The production's awesome. Okay, the songs could be better. Just not on that same level. I still hold that opinion. I like it, and I like listening to it, but not on the same level. Now, this is a surprising thing about Countdown to Extinction. Recently, like the last 10 plus years, I've listened to it. I still have a split opinion of it. I don't like the production as much as the Black Album, and the first side of the album, it's kind of commercial. It's like the Black Album, just Megadeth's own twist or version of that, right? But the second half has some really fucking killer stuff that's probably more along the lines of Rust in Peace. So this is my opinion about Metallica versus Megadeth with regards to Black Album versus Countdown to Extinction. Countdown is ostensibly a better written record than the Black Album. Countdown to Extinction is not as well produced in this classic sounding way. This production is an art. So I think the Black Album, if the Countdown to Extinction was produced like the Black Album, or Bob Rock had produced it and not fucked with the compositions at all, then the Countdown would definitely win among the two. So I'd say Countdown to Extinction nowadays, musically by a hair, is better than the Black Album, just because of that second half and some of those songs that are just like Architecture of Aggression and stuff like that. It's just better. It's just well played. better played, better, it doesn't matter if it's better played. Metallica is not known to have the most virtuosity in the world, except for like maybe Master and Justice for All to some extent, even Ride the Lightning parts of it. But I would say it's a better album overall. Listenability, ugh, I just skip both and go to the old stuff usually. Now we get to the second half or the later part of their career, which is not really later by comparative standards, but relative standards, I should say. So, Euthanasia versus Load. This is a tough one. It's actually really tough. I like neither. If I had to choose one, I'd probably pick certain songs off a Load that are more tolerable, as well as Euthanasia, and just make a mix album, playlist, tape, CD, whatever. I don't like either albums that much. I think Load should have been a different band. They should have just renamed the band at that point. The same members, just like this side project. Metallica's doing a like country rock alternative 70s rock influenced side project called Load of Shit. No, I'm just kidding. But no. So this is where things get really interesting because it's kind of a race. What's the next album after that? I think Cryptic Writings versus Reload. It's Cryptic Writings for sure. Cryptic Writings is kind of like where I think Euthanasia. It's like Euthanasia but better to me, in my opinion. If Euthanasia was good, Reload. I hear those songs on the radio. I just want to turn it off. I don't like it. Fuel is sort of a guilty pleasure at times, but it just doesn't have that. It's just lame to me. I just don't like it. And at that time, it was very divisive for me because I was getting all these albums from Europe, ordering these imports of all these metal bands, and I was like, I just laughed at people that liked Load and Reload at the time. I was such a smug metal elitist. So no, definitely Cryptic Writings I liked more. I just had more memorable songs to me. And the songs are catchy, even if they are commercial. They're catchier to me than Euthanasia, and even some of the stuff off of Countdown. I thought Cryptic Writings was pretty good, and Risk versus S&M, I guess, or Garage Inc. I don't know. I don't know where you compare them. I guess Risk was more contemporaneous with Load in a way, or Reload. Risk I never even listened to. I heard a song, I just refused to listen to. I'm like, no, whatever. The World Needs a Hero versus No More Metallica for a while. We'll just go into Megadeth right away. So, World Needs a Hero was kind of it's like you're almost there, but you're not quite there. Back to the old glory of Metallica, or Megadeth, excuse me. I thought it had some good songs, decent production, decent guitar playing, but it just didn't quite hit the spot. They had some good stuff though. Don't get me wrong, like that Return to Hainer, but there was another song after that, and then it had that Am I Evil sort of sounding song, When or whatever. That was weird. I guess he got permission from the Diamond Head dudes. But then we're going into what's the album? System Has Failed versus Saint Anger. Now this is probably no surprise, but actually it is a surprise, maybe. I did defend Saint Anger in a previous video, and I do like it. But I would say System Has Failed probably, oh God, I don't know. I think it's toss-up, actually. People are going to be laughing at this video right now because you like Saint Anger more as much as System Has Failed. But let's defend System Has Failed more because I've already done my Saint Anger spiel. So, System Has Failed has Chris Poland, has catchy commercial-ass songs that stay stuck in your head and aren't lame, and it has a lot of aggression. And it has really incisive riffing and feel, and concepts and stuff. I love the System Has Failed. It's my favorite post Rust in Peace Megadeth album to this day. So I'd say both of them are. I like Saint Anger from a critical point of view. Like I used these ideas before, earlier in this video. I would say that I like. I think System Has Failed better, but I listen to Saint Anger quite a bit, especially like the last few years. It has this weird fucked up feel, like fucked up, man. You know, it sounds smoking in my car, and I don't can't talk like Lars, but um, he does talk that way as far as all these albums, production, all this stuff. And the drums on Saint Anger are just they're kind of crazy. Like I like how Lars did the drums, like what he plays. So I'd say Saint Anger slight. Well, I'd say it's even, but I listen to Saint Anger more if that makes any sense. If that even, maybe I'm just scared of the backlash against Saint Anger. I don't know, unconsciously. So now we get to no more Metallica for a while because they're staggering out their albums way more. United Abominations. You know, nah. Never liked it. I thought it was like a step down from System Has Failed. I could listen to it again, and it just sounds digital, and it's like I would compare it to like Dance to Death by Iron Maiden. It's like the band made a comeback, and now they're just like kind of riding their coattails, and it's just like this blah thing. And I'm trying to remember if I'm missing any more Megadeth albums. Megadeth has released way more albums than Metallica at this point. So now we get to what's the next one? So Endgame versus Death Magnetic. Okay, that's an interesting comparison. At this point, I like Endgame more than Death Magnetic because over time I realized that Death Magnetic has a lot of stuff that just kind of bothers me about latter day Metallica, like the yodeling and some of the not the drum. I mean the drums too, but like just some of the compositions just have that like way too alternative Leonard Skinner vocal feel to it. Like Chad Kroeger is meeting up with Travis Tritt and calling himself James Hetfield or some shit. I don't know. But anyways, I don't like Death Magnetic as nearly as much as when it came out. And I only listened to the Guitar Hero stem versions that people made, the remixes, because of controversial production that happened. That was a total clusterfuck of Metallica. Thankfully, they self-corrected on that afterward. Endgame, it's lacking in melody and lacking in really great songs, but the aggression is there. And the feel is there. And I like Chris Broderick. I liked his work in Jack Panzer far more than Megadeth, but it's pretty good. So I don't know which one. It's kind of a toss-up, but lately I've been more into Endgame as far as an album. I just like it better to some extent. Some of the more annoying things, but it's hard to say. Because I like Judas Kiss and even the End of the Line and some of the other songs. And some of the Beyond Magnetic, the EP they had, some of those songs were cool too, like Hate Train. But the lyrics just bother me. Just the yodeling, the lyrics. It depends on my tolerance of James Hetfield's modern day country-esque yodeling, to be honest. So now we get to some of these lesser known Megadeth albums, or what is it called? 13. Didn't really listen to it. I think I listened to it once and I just never listened to it again. I was like, it wasn't that great to me. It's kind of stock. Riff is kind of stock. Never mind. It's a Metallica reference. Beyond Magnetic, probably like it more than 13 if you want to, use the years and stuff of Megadeth versus Metallica. So now we get to another controversial Megadeth album. What was it called? God, what was that album called? See, I can't even... Super Collider. I was like, no. I didn't like it. It was just kind of boring. I'm just being totally honest, Dave Mustaine could hate me if he wants, for his hard work and passion going into Super Collider, but I just didn't like it. I'm sorry. People have the right to not like something. They don't have to like my music. I make a fuck ton of music nowadays. They don't have to like it. I'm writing full bore hair metal and AOR songs now. People don't have to like it. You can hate it. It's fine. I'm not gonna. My ego is not on the line. So, anyways, what is next after that from Metallica? Let's see. So, and pardon me if I've missed any albums, but Hardwired to Self-Destruct, kind of good, not too bad. James Hetfield sings a little less annoying on it to me. Like he has to listen to all that stuff, and some of the songs are kind of boring, but the production is better than previous two albums for sure. They learned their lessons. It sounds more like the Black Album meets sort of a little bit of Justice, a little bit of Load, which people probably hate. And then we have Dystopia by Megadeth. So this is the problem with Megadeth right here. I'm going to define it. You have the first 3 songs that were released as lyric videos and stuff too. I think it's literally the first 3 songs. I was like, holy shit, some of these riffs sound like Peace Sells. I was really excited, and I have the new guitarists from Angra, who I've listened to for years as well, so I'm familiar with them. It's cool that Dave Mustaine picks all these power metal shredders, because like a lot of these bands are underrated and underappreciated and unheard of by stupid American audiences. Sorry to say. So yeah, I thought it was promising, but then it just kind of gets into filler territory a lot of the time, and just the lyrics, just I don't know, just I don't really love. I would have to say Metallica wins slightly. I mean, we're both dealing with material that's not at their best, honestly. Neither band. Hardwired is a little bit better, so I can't even keep track. I think Metallica wins by a hair. Metallica versus Megadeth. And that's really hard to say, but like just slightly, because Megadeth's done some stellar material and music. Now, who's more metal? Who's retained the metal edge, quote unquote? Not to mention that magazine, which whatever. I'd say Dave Mustaine and Megadeth have maintained their metal, life. Well, that's controversial, of course, because metal is not born again Christian necessarily, but so I'd say Megadeth has been more metal over the years than Metallica. And who are better musicians? Well, obviously Megadeth are better musicians than Metallica. There's just no denying that. And Dave Mustaine is a better guitarist than Kirk, that we know of, because of what he plays. Of course, Kirk could be able to play better than he plays on Metallica albums. Maybe he's just underplaying. Like a lot of the NU metal, like bands like Disturbed, some of these guys are shredders from the 80s or early 90s, and we didn't even know that until like more recent albums where they actually play solos and stuff. Like Wes Borland is actually supposedly, apparently a pretty good guitarist, but he underplays in Limp Bizkit. So that could be a thing with Kirk Hammett nowadays, because he did shred it up in the 80s a little bit. He didn't get to that point of Skolnick or Poland or even Mustaine in some ways. Mustaine played a lot of the same licks back then, but diminished here, chromatic here, all this stuff. But still, Dave Mustaine is a better guitar player than Kirk Hammett. But tone-wise, and this is going to be, so who wins with guitar tones and production? I think Metallica wins, even though they've made some really horrific choices on production over the years. Just the sheer meatiness of James Hetfield's tone in the rhythm guitar. Mustaine and company sound anemic in comparison. However great the songs are, however great the musicianship is, something about James Hetfield's right hand, maybe it's not even his hand, it's just the tone that he gets. This deep, heavy, pounding, heavy tone. And with Lars playing a lot of the same kind of, like playing along with it, it's like, it's not syncopation, but it's like this, like, machine that hits you over the head. Megadeth is not like that. They're a little more like a mosquito or bumblebee in comparison. They're not like a fucking monster truck or a fucking Godzilla in heaviness. I'm just being quite honest. And I love Megadeth, So, tone-wise, even Kirk on the early albums versus Dave Mustaine's tone, it's like it has a soul to it, a feel to it. And I think that's why they chose Kirk Hammett, but Kirk Hammett stagnated, unlike Dave Mustaine did. Dave Mustaine got a lot better. I think after his hand injury, I think he probably got even better, because like he's pretty even. He's not exactly on the same level of the shredders that he hires on, but he's almost there a lot of the time. You hear these solos, so that's one thing about him. They are better players. Dave Ellefson versus Cliff Burton. Oh God, I don't want to say that. I love Dave. You see, I love Dave Ellefson. I think he's underrated as fuck. So I'd say Cliff Burton had more of an immediate effect on Metallica's music. So Cliff Burton wins, but Dave Ellefson, you know, the MTV News for years had the Peace Sells beginning bass line. I mean, he's a legend on bass. There's no doubt. Gar Samuelson versus Lars Ulrich, that's a joke. But uh, Lars Ulrich is iconic for his 80s material. I think that because he writes riffs for the drums, okay? There's riffs. There's riffs for guitar and there's riffs for the drums. And he writes riffs. Like, listen to Justice. You could air drum a lot of stuff. Maybe it's not the most complicated stuff. A good comparison to Lars, this is going to sound interesting, hopefully. I think it's Peter Criss of Kiss. So Peter Criss was never praised as a drummer, but early on, like, people said, oh, he has some chops, blah, blah, blah. But he had this car accident, like, I think it was 78 or 9. And then his playing deteriorated and he got more into drugs and stuff. And I'm not saying this happened to Lars because he never had an accident as far as I know. I think he got into drugs and the business side of Metallica too much and never practiced. That's the problem with Lars. But a somewhat iconic drummer. I mean, people really did like Peter Criss as a drummer at one point. They didn't think he was John Bonham, but they didn't think he was like your average fucking bar band guy either. So I think with Lars, it's kind of a similar phenomenon. So the 80s Lars, if Lars would have kept going from where he was with Justice, we wouldn't be making fun of Lars Ulrich today, and possibly would say, those legendary drums by Lars Ulrich, and he got even better. And we wouldn't even notice that, because the drums were pretty good. They weren't, you know, Lombardo or Hoagland level back then, but they were pretty damn good. They were at least on a, you know, Venter, you know, these guys like Venter or some of these drummers, like for these thrash bands like Creator or otherwise, they're not like hated like Lars are. They're actually pretty worshipped, but the first Creator demos and albums, you know, are not like masterpieces of drums. They're kind of sloppy. So if Lars would have gotten better with time and he would have played off the Justice, you know, the Justice thing, which is controversial even there with oh, it's all tape loops. Oh, yeah, you can't do all that shit with tape loops. I'm sorry. But especially back then, they weren't sampling all this shit, you know, quantizing. He worked his ass off. Okay, that's what happened. So if Lars would have progressed or kept on the same level at least, then people would have said Lars, it wouldn't make fun of Lars so much. Of course, Napster didn't help either. So that's my whole thing. Like, Lars is not the drummer Gar Samuelson was, or Nick Menza was, or who's the latest drummer? Fuck, I can't. Or Dirk. Can't remember his last name, but he's been in a lot of black metal bands. Which is kind of funny for Born Again Dave Mustaine. By the way, one note about Megadeth is that I think Dave Mustaine is like less crazy Christian as he used to be, because when they started playing The Conjuring live, I had hope. You know, like, it was like 2 years ago. I was like, holy shit, they're playing The Conjuring again? I thought he was scared of that song. Ugh. He's just like had a philosophical response about playing it. But it's pretty cool. And there's getting this black metal guy that plays in all these black metal bands and projects. I think there's even like some Satyricon and like some Norwegian old school bands he's played with too. So getting this guy maybe it broadened Dave's horizons again about stuff. You know, I don't know. But anyways, that's pretty cool. And then James Hetfield does these like fucking Mormon documentaries now, which is kind of scary. But like this, it's an anti-porn documentary that he narrated. Like, oh, what the fuck happened to these guys? Anyways, that's a little bit on a different note. So we're talking about Metallica versus Megadeth. It's a really tough thing to say, but Metallica, those first 4 albums just have a magical place in my heart and my musical vocabulary and, you know, my consciousness that is higher than Megadeth. Not much, you know. I listen to So Far So Good So What, you know, lately more than Metallica's albums actually. For some reason, I get into that from time to time. It just has memories and stuff. But I think Metallica, they're not a better band per se, but they have. It's just so tough. But Metallica wins by a hair. Metallica versus Megadeth. I'm not one of those people. And you know, the people have the same thing. Iron Maiden versus Judas Priest. Maybe I'll do that one next. That would be almost impossible to do that. It would be so nerve-wracking to do that, because like I love those bands so much. Spoilers, I don't know. You know, I'm not going to spoil it because I might do this video, but I mean, it's a tough one. So Metallica wins, not for musicianship, but for just those first four albums that just have such a iconic influence on people in our history. Megadeth did not get to that level. Maybe they were too late out of the starting gate. Now Megadeth did, by default, get to that higher level because Dave Mustaine wrote a lot of the first two records of Metallica records. So in a way, Metallica wins even more because of Dave Mustaine. So, and Kill 'Em All is probably my favorite, followed by Justice, as it has been since I was a kid. I don't know why, but that's the way it resonates with me. Followed by Ride the Lightning, followed by Master of Puppets, followed by Garage Days, followed by Black Album, and then after that, the controversial thing I would say is Saint Anger's, probably somewhere in that 6 or 7 that I like the most, depending on the. And I mean, we can watch my Saint Anger video to find out why, but that was kind of the thing I was trying to say. But who influences me as a musician? That's tough to say. I would say more lately it's been Megadeth. Metallica still has. I mean, that's why I play metal, is partly because of Metallica. Like, I first started palm muting. I didn't know how to palm mute, so I just did the top of the bridge at first because that's what my brother did. And then I finally learned how to palm mute. So that's how he used to do that. It's like a natural harmonic that's kind of dead anyways on the first fret. It's kind of ridiculous, but that's how he used to do that. And I remember he played the open E like that. I didn't know how to palm mute. It's kind of funny. So I would say the Metallica initially were a big influence on me as a musician. Now Megadeth are more of an influence on me because I listen to a lot of Marty Friedman and Chris Poland. I mean, I got this Ohm. It looks like an Opeth album. It's an Ohm album. I listen to more Megadeth now as far as an influence, but I'll still listen to Metallica for leisure. And so I do like Metallica more than Megadeth, but Megadeth are more of an influence on my music. So what does that mean? I don't know. They're a toss-up. That's what it is. It's a toss-up. But Metallica, itty-bitty bit more. That's all I got to say.